We specialize in wood and wood-based products, yes.
Why?
There's a couple reasons for that. The first and most probably the biggest upside piece here is wood on the surface looks like a supply chain that is very big and organized. It's about the size of concrete and steel combined. But it's the only construction material that's grown, not produced. And that actually creates a lot of really interesting dynamics. So in steel or say aluminium, if you buy aluminium 71B, anatomically it's very similar to what you'd get in China or get it in India. You can ship it all around the world. You go to the cheapest cost of labor place and you get the biggest ratio, savings, right? So you can get a 3x saving from purchasing your product in China versus somewhere else. Well, none of that works in wood because wood grows everywhere. People have different tastes for the types of wood. Its travel value is very low. It's quite voluminous. So if you put it all into a shipping container, it's not nearly as valuable as an equivalent product in, say, steel. If you send it through the Suez Canal on a hot day, on your boat, it can warp. So there's all sorts of reasons why wood is grown and consumed fairly locally. And that actually means that there's a really big business to build as a marketplace because you've got lots of small businesses that are attached to these pretty fragmented supply chains that are trying to do work locally, but they're actually competitive regionally. And so if you can give a manufacturing facility in Latvia exposure to customers in Germany, they're more than able to fulfill those jobs. So there's a big discovery problem to solve. There's a big pricing problem to solve because every single one of these small manufacturers, they're quoting on wood supply chains that's coming in on a per batch level, and depending on the relationship they have with their supplier, it's either more expensive or less expensive. So there's no purchase power because everyone's a small business. And so putting everyone together into a buying group and giving them the option to be able to do their jobs for cheaper is a really big product. Same again with machine capacity because they're a small business. Their machines might be running 40% of the time, right? And if you can get that number up to 70%, they're a completely different business.
Yeah.
So there's lots of opportunities when you think of like really fragmented supply chain, small operators trying to do business with people, and they don't necessarily have the tools to do this sort of stuff. And then you overlay the fact that in steel, and actually pretty broadly in concrete as well, for the last 300 years, if you wanted to work with these what's called isotopic materials, you basically went to university for engineering, right? And so in that supply chain, you've got engineers talking to engineers about how to engineer a solution. And so, if you're building something in automotive, you're not asking the manufacturer what they think. You're telling them exactly what needs to get produced. Whereas in wood, you've got an interior designer talking to a carpenter, and they're loosely working on the same software and hardware, but the interior designer isn't drawing holes in their design. They're just saying you should know where the holes go. Likewise, the carpenter has learnt on the job where the holes should go, but it's not necessarily best practice. It's just the way they learnt. So there's a lot of this gray area that starts to roll into the design for manufacturing loop that's unique to the wood industry. So long-winded answer of saying this is a very, very big manufacturing supply chain with a lot of problems that are solved in other industries but are unsolved in wood because of the uniqueness of it. And to the extent that we can take some of those innovations and get them into this industry, we think we can make it a lot more competitive. And actually, I ultimately think of our biggest competitor as being steel and concrete. The more we can encourage this supply chain to work just like contract manufacturing works in, say, steel today, the more we can get it to a place where wood becomes the obvious building material for a number of different use cases.